So John Duval from John Duval Wines in the Barossa. John, 2011 vintage, a bit of a doom and gloom vintage by all reports because of all the persistent rain in the eastern states. But your take on the vintage in the Barossa and how you handled those issues?
Well, at the end of the day, it's what Mother Nature gave us, and I think those people that were on top of their vineyard management, the growers, the people who own their own vineyard. I think it was a testing vintage, no doubt about that. But those people had yields under control and were diligent. The wines certainly are a little lighter structure than what we've been used. But I mean, my wines are fresh, vibrant. I mean, normally my wines are say 14 to 14 and a half. My wines are 13.5 to 14%. They're fresh, vibrant, elegant, and so they're different, but they're fine.
Yeah. So lower Beaumet, sort of more mid-weight sort of wines?
Yeah, more medium-bodied rather than. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a lot of seriously structured, long-living wines, but the wines have got vibrance, good fruit intensity, nice acidity, and elegant balance.
Yeah, and good levels of natural acidity. Yeah, because we met in July in the Barossa, and as I was driving around, certainly seeing quite a lot of fruit hanging on the vine. And I know Shiraz seemed to suffer more than some other varieties. And so, as you say, it all comes back to if we were in France, we'd talk about a grower's vintage. So it's all about how the growers look after their vineyard, do any leaf removal. Keep yields low to make sure that they get healthy and ripe fruit.
Well, that's right. That's what I was saying to start with. Those people that were on top of vineyard management fared better, absolutely. And look, it depended on what region. I mean, the earlier districts, and I mean, I got some fruit off down the southern Barossa before the big rain came, and I'm very happy. I mean, I think it came off at 14.2 Beaumet, and it's great.
Yeah. And we were talking when we met in July about different kind of unofficial sub-regions within the Barossa. So you're seeing a difference of performance in 2011 across the Barossa?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, as I was saying, the earlier ripening districts, I think, fared a little bit better than those areas that were late.
Yeah. So early ripening districts, for example, would be.
Oh, the southern end of the Barossa were a little earlier.
Yeah. Okay. And Shiraz, obviously, the main focus for you, but not the exclusive focus, because you also make a Shiraz Mourvèdre Grenache blend, and you're also making a white blend as well. So good vintage for whites, from what I was
that's
tasting.
Right. My 2011 Plexus White is in bottle, and been happy. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's Roussanne, Marsanne.
It's Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier.
Yeah. So that came up.
Yes, happy, absolutely.
Really smart. And again, Beaumet's lower? Sort of more aromatic, fresher style?
Just a fraction lower than last year. I think the alcohol is 12.5 as opposed to 13 last year.
Yeah.
But the vibrance and freshness and textures there, so I was pretty happy.
Yeah, and as you were saying in the seminar where you've just been speaking, elegance is very much what you're chasing. So in some respects, a vintage that plays into your hands.
It has from that point of view. Exactly. I mean, I guess. I mean, the alcohol level is down 0.5% compared to what I normally would be doing. But they are what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming to the bigger picture, 2011 was a year where, because of big crop losses on account of the disease pressure and the rain. People were expecting the vintage to come in significantly lower than previous vintages, but in fact the vintage turned out 1.6 million tonnes, 1% higher than 2010 on the preliminary report from the Winemakers Federation of Australia. And Stephen Strachan commenting about that being unsustainable going forward for Australia. Any thoughts on what Australia needs to be doing to make sure that it is sustainable, what it's producing going forward?
Well, obviously the total production was a bit of a surprise, and I think in essence because of the rain, I mean the yield sort of built as the vintage was progressing, and I think a lot of people were making estimates of the size of the vintage early on, and got caught out of it when the final figures came through. But at the end of the day, yes, we've been making more wine than sustainable. So, and that's why it would have been nice if this vintage was a bit lower.
Yeah. Anything you think ought to be, happening in Australia? Certainly, I know in France there have been sort of grubbing up incentives from the government. I'm probably mentioning that to someone from the Barossa. That puts a chill up your spine because of the sort of 80s vine removal
past
scheme.
Performance not being particularly successful in terms of not targeting the right areas. No, well, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, the industry bodies have got the message out there. I think it's just making it happen. Really, I mean, there's we have to reduce production. That's the be all and end all of it, really.
Yeah, but as you say, in the right areas.
Exactly.
In the right areas.
It's got to be targeted.
Yeah, and an interesting comment that you made in the seminar just now was that in the Barossa, this fantastic heritage of old vines, and shouldn't perhaps those be protected so there isn't that issue that happened in the 1980s when there was a vine pull scheme and people were paid to pull out these old vine Shiraz and.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about having an old vine register, and the Barossa's actually taken quite seriously the definition of old vine. So we've got an old vine charter in terms of defining what an old vine is. Old vine has got to be over 35 years old, and then the next level is 75, 100, and then the ancient vineyards over 125. So I mean, we're actually trying to make it a bit more objective rather than just loosely banding the word old vine around.
Also good. Great. Thanks so much, John. John Duval.
Pleasure.
Thank you.